Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Shop. Today, Nick, we're going to talk about a little bit of everything, right? But we're going to talk about pricing variances amongst different industries. Specifically, we're going to talk on our industry, but you can think about your industry. As always, I'm your host, Brandon Bombardo, here with Nick Peters.
Hello.
Dad joke extraordinaire.
Yeah. Try my best.
Weatherman.
It's nice outside.
It is. What else are you? Girl Scout cookie seller.
Oh, yeah.
It's that season.
I do have some of those at home.
You do?
Haven't had a one yet, though.
Oh, lucky. Me neither. You ever wonder, question for you, Nick. Have you ever wondered, like, how or why prices vary so largely, like, between competitors
Yes,
in the same industry?
for sure.
And, you know, some products are tens of thousands of dollars more.
Yep. For seemingly the exact same thing.
And that's what I was going to say.
What they make seem like the exact
And
same
I think that's the thing that we're going to talk about today, right? It's easy to get confused by that, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes into products in different industries, and obviously every industry is different. But, you know, many companies, I think, like their MO when they sell a cheap product is to try to sell it as if it's somebody else's product, right?
Yep, for sure.
And I think it can confuse people, and that's what I wanted to talk about today, is specifically why you're, you know, spending less sometimes does result in getting less, and you know, it kind of muddles up the water a little bit when you don't have clear understanding what's going on. And so I thought today's episode will be good to jump into that.
I like it. Bring clarity to the situation, right?
I just think it's a good topic for us to all kind of think about. I mean, all of us in our businesses deal with that. So, and as consumers, we all deal with it on a daily basis. So I thought it's kind of fun.
Like, why is gas 40 cents cheaper 2 blocks down the road from the other place?
I can't answer that one. That one always confused me. But I know there's something there.
Like the same gas station. Like you go through New Prague, there's Quick Trip on one end of town, that's one price.
Right.
4 blocks down the road on the other end of town, it's different.
Yeah, but it's not that far off usually. I live in New Prague.
But how is it off at all?
Because there's a margin tolerance that the companies can choose.
I know, but within 3 blocks?
It's a margin tolerance.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know.
It makes no sense.
I made them internet mad this week.
Yeah, you did.
Oops. We put an ad out, plasma versus laser. And I shouldn't even say versus laser. It was just like, why are you still using plasma when you could be using laser? And the world lost its mind.
Well, it was simply just taken out of context.
I know.
And, like, it's so easy to just read things how you want to read it, right?
I know, I feel bad, but it wasn't like, I was trying to be simple, right? Make it simple. Like, why are you still using, not like saying plasma's not good, right? Plasma's great. We believe in plasma. We sell a lot of plasma.
Yep.
But like, I think there's a lot of people that have forgotten to look at what they're doing because they've been using plasma so long, right? Yep. And there's customers, and I specifically speak from experience that, you know, I've become so used to the fact that plasma can't do certain things, right? And it's not that like plasma's good or bad. It's just limited by the technology itself, right? And so, you know, when you start thinking about like cutting a bolt hole in a, you know, piece of steel, you know, the example that I put to you know, point is a 1/4-inch hole in 1/4-inch material, right? It's a difficult task for a plasma because it's really on the cusp of what they can and can't do. I mean, 1/4-inch holes are kind of the limitation to how small of a hole you can effectively do. And then on 1-to-1 ratio, that's the bottom, right? And so I showed a plate that was a 1/4-inch thick with a 1/8-inch hole in it. And obviously I think photos is where it got lost because it looks bigger than maybe it is, but it's an 1/8-inch hole. And people were like, if your plasma cuts that bad, then you got a bad like, no, I would love to see people doing that. Like it doesn't, it's not that mine is better, worse, whatever, yours is better. It's just you're limited, right? There's certain things.
It was just kind of like showing the possibilities of what it can and can't be.
Right. Like, and the other thing I think about is like just the cleanup and the dross and like just there's some things that you're just limited on. And so people who are hand drilling holes still and people who are having to do a lot of cleanup on parts, it's like I wanted to catch their attention that there's a better way out there. And it's not for everyone, right? You don't have to spend money. Not everybody does. And some people just don't have the budget or the power or whatever. Yep. And that's your reason why. But it wasn't meant to like stir up the internet. Oopsies.
But I think it was good on the fact that while people maybe didn't necessarily understand what you were getting at, it gave you the ability to explain it.
Right.
Like you could comment to people and kind of explain it. Whether they took it and like accepted the explanation or not is another story. But
I think it started a verbal word of wars or war of words.
Right.
And
But like we've always talked about, you're always going to have that type of thing happen, right? But there's still people out there that see that then and like understand what you were
I felt bad for our marketing team because they had to fight it. And eventually I was just like, this isn't the battle I want to pick. I'm not trying to start something.
Right.
I think they're both good. We sell a lot of plasma. I believe in them. Hypertherm's a phenomenal company. And again, when it comes to plasma, you can get some really awesome results. We do every day. We use a plasma in our own production every day. Right. So I don't know. I wasn't trying to start a war there, but oops, I'm human. I made a mistake.
Live and learn.
Yeah, but hey, guess what? Spring's here.
It is.
We're doing rooftop podcast next Tuesday.
In shorts and swimming trunks, sunglasses, flip-flops, and a beach chair.
That's what you tell me. 60 degrees next Tuesday.
Yeah.
We got a snowstorm this week, though.
Yeah, I hate snow.
Yikes.
Well, I don't hate snow. I hate the cold.
Yeah,
so it's fine. But we got a lot of snow. Some people did.
As the snow melts, I'm finding a lot of doggy landmines.
Don't have a dog, so I don't have that problem, but
I sent my kids out. I was like, here's a trash bag. Go solve the problem.
How much do you pay them?
0. They live in my house for free.
That's fair.
They're my kids.
Just making sure you're going to get the right answer here.
Yeah. They don't need to be paid to do their chores.
Yeah, it's melting really fast, though.
It is. Well, I don't know if it's going to melt fast in my yard because the mounds are 95 feet tall.
Did you plow your driveway?
I did. I got stuck. Thanks.
Maybe we should let your wife plow the driveway and not have those incidents.
Well, she got even. We all know the story about her lawn mowing, right? Everybody has heard that on future or past podcasts. I got up at 4:30 in the morning to plow the driveway so I could get out to come to work. And
some of us were already at work.
No, you weren't. You called in sick that day. Sick. And
I was forced to leave.
I did. I forced him to go home the day before. Not realizing I was going to make my life harder. So I got up 4:30, made one swipe of the plow down the driveway and buried it.
What happened, though, for real?
Just buried it. It was that deep.
So you just didn't put the plow all the way down?
I purposely didn't put the plow all the way down because...
Make a couple passes?
Yeah, I was going to do it like...
It gets so heavy, I suppose.
Yeah, because it doesn't get so... It was such a heavy... I'm like, that would cause me to get stuck, I figured, because of pushing all that, it's just going to bury itself and then dig itself down in the driveway.
Did you go wake the kids up to come shovel you out?
No. No, I shoveled myself out, then used my truck and pulled, the other vehicle out.
Did you get to work on time?
I did.
That's good.
Later than I wanted to be. But I then told my wife about it. She laughed and told me I'm going to go back on camera and watch it.
Of course she did.
I was like, well, while you were sleeping, I was out there sweating because that snow was the heaviest snow I've ever shoveled in my life.
It was crazy.
It was terrible.
I didn't shovel any of it.
Terrible.
Drove over it a few times. It's starting to melt. Our driveway gets sun like all day long, so it's fine.
Lucky.
It'll just be gone.
No, it's definitely melting. And now every road is wet all the time.
I made the mistake of going down a gravel road last night when I was going home just because I was like, I don't want to deal with
yucky
stoplights and stuff. So I got home and got out and I'm like,
yeah.
Thanks for taking my car to get washed on Valentine's Day, Natalie, but now it's really muddy.
Yucky.
But yeah, it happens.
Well, on that note, let's get into today's episode.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, questions and comments. I know you always bring some this week. Did you bring some?
I do got a few of them for you.
Let's go. I'm ready.
Question number 1. Why would I want to create dovetail drawers on my CNC? I buy them cheap. Well, you can probably make them cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, well, for one, I think the term I buy them cheap, what's cheap, right? Like, are they selling them to you for the cost of material?
I guess that was my point. Like, they're going to make money on doing the work, right?
I have to imagine so. That's what I'm asking.
They're going to buy the same material as you do.
Right.
Then do the work and charge you for it.
Well, I have to imagine so. I mean, I can't imagine they're like, hey, we're just going to do it for free. So like,
seems like a bad business model.
Yeah, like, so, I mean, there's some profit margin somewhere in this thing if they're doing them, right? So the point, I think, with why you'd want to make them yourself is you already own the equipment. So why not make them yourself there? And 2, there's no lead time when you're making them yourself, right? You get to control the lead time. And 3, you're already paying the payment on your machine if you have a payment, or maybe it's paid off, right? But to me, it's free labor at that point, right? The machine's paying for itself doing whatever, I guess, else. If you're not doing this, you're doing something with it. So if you're buying drawers, you might as well, downtime on the machine might as well be pure profit, right?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
So I guess that's my response is that's why.
Perfect. So. I think you kind of already touched on this next one, but
okay.
ShopSabre sells plasma. Why would you push fiber laser? Are you saying plasma is not as good anymore?
Yeah, I think you took that one from exactly I talked about earlier. So, yeah, I think it's the same thing. We're not saying plasma's not as good. Plasma's great. to each their own, right? Every technology has its pros and cons, and there's going to be places where laser is just going to give you more precision. You know, I try to remind people that laser isn't replacing plasma. Laser is a next step up in precision.
Right.
I mean, it's the fact of the technology. They're different categories of technology. They exist for that reason. And for some, plasma just can't reach the tolerances they're trying to achieve. And for some, plasma does everything they need it to, and there's no reason to look at a laser. So, you know, there are cases and points where laser is a great step up in accuracy. Again, we have some really good customers of ours who have now added laser to their shop. They're excited to get their new fiber sabers, and they're not getting rid of their plasmas. They've openly said that. They're going to keep them. So there's going to be many shops, I think, that have both tools. So.
All right, next one. CNC is too expensive. I will just continue to pay someone else to cut my product.
I disagree. I don't think CNC is too expensive. I think it's relative to what you're considering expensive, right? Yes, there's a cost associated with CNC, but I guess there's a cost associated with paying somebody to do the work too.
For sure.
And so eventually, I guess the person who you're paying appreciates you sticking with it, right? You're paying for their CNC machine because at the end of the day, I can't speak for what you're paying. I don't know this context of the question. I'd love to know who it was and, talk about their business. But again, everybody who you're paying is doing it for profit.
Right.
So at some point, there's a break even, right? They're going to receive enough payment from you to break even on their equipment, and now you've paid for it, right?
So why not take that money you're paying them,
right,
keep it in your pocket and pay for your own machine?
And that's my thought, is that over time, it breaks even, right? And is that 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 6 years? I don't know it depends on your work. But I mean, we have a lot of customers that have claimed that they're paying for their machine in 6 months or less.
Yep.
And so that's why, to me, there's a price associated with buying a CNC machine, but there's a whole lot of versatility with it. And there's a whole lot of freedom that comes along with that. And to a lot of businesses, freedom and versatility in itself is a reward that pays for itself. But then you start thinking about pure profit, and you start thinking about, maybe being able to charge other people to do work, right?
Correct.
And then
Yep.
you're in the catbird seat, if you will, right? You got the ability to say, hey, I'm going to charge this person. I don't have to make a lot of money on that job, but every time they pay me, it's
Correct.
pure
Yep.
cash in my pocket to pay my machine off. So I don't know.
I'm with you on that one.
Yes, no, maybe.
Got one more for you.
Okay.
Do you think the inventor of the knock knock joke should get a Nobel Prize?
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
I'm just glad you got that one this time. I
was
didn't have
good.
to explain it
That was
to you.
good. No, that was good. Get out of here.
All right. You're making me leave again?
Yeah, leave.
Perfect.
My question, okay? My turn to ask some questions?
Yes.
So I wrote one down here. My question is, where is your source of truth when it comes to product research? So when you do your own research, because it kind of fits in today's topic of talking about difference of products, and when you're trying to understand it or trying to research something you're going to buy, where's your source of truth? Where do you go first?
First,
Yep.
probably the internet
Okay.
for me.
I was looking for a more true source of truth, though. Where do you go? The internet's a large place.
Sure.
Are you just going to Google and straight Googling it? Are you going
Specific product searches?
Well, I'm just wondering. And again, internet is one. I mean, somebody might go to the library. Somebody might, go to their best friend. I don't know, but I think a lot of people's answer is going to be the internet.
I think it's a good starting point. And then you can kind of refine it to get.
Yeah, but my question is, if you
further down.
do choose internet, where, where are you going?
Probably first the producer's website.
Okay, so you go to the
making
product's
it.
website,
Yeah.
try to learn something there.
And then you can probably branch out from there.
So I'm really big on YouTube. I'm a YouTube guy. When I'm trying to learn something specifically, I just think about race car stuff, right?
Sure.
When I'm trying to figure something out, rather than searching out a product, I try to find the source. So I'm how do I solve bump steer on my car, right? Or whatever. I'll go to YouTube and type that in. Because sometimes you'll find a video of somebody explaining it, and then they may introduce you to a product by saying, hey, I use this product, right?
Sure.
So I've found that to be a good source of truth. The other thing is when I do find a product, as you've said, I do go to their website, but a lot of times I will, again, go to YouTube there as well to look for that product, because you can find a lot of good educational content. Or if the product has a video section on the website, I'll go to their videos. I'm a video guy. I like to watch videos. I like to educate myself through
see
video.
what's actually happening.
Yeah. So my
make-
answer is video.
Does it make a difference to you, how much money you're spending on something?
No.
You just always.
No, I'm just that guy that I bought a new Wi-Fi router a few months back, and I still did the same thing. And it's, it's only a few $100. It's not a,
Sure.
not a life-changing, investment.
Yeah.
But I spent, several hours probably just, I don't do it during like critical times of my life, right? I'm not taking time away from work to watch that video, but like at night when I'm laying in bed or, something before I go to bed, I'll watch, a few videos on a product or,
Sure.
Yeah, I think the other thing I've done is I've switched more to audiobooks recently. Hopefully people are doing the same thing listening to this show, but while I'm driving, rather than listening to music, when I'm by myself, not with my kids, not with my wife, because that'll bore them, but I will go find a product I'm trying to learn more about, and I'll just listen to stuff on it, or I'll, listen to books on certain topics.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Heck, a lot easier than reading, that's for sure.
I don't have the patience.
I feel like when I listen to things like that, I for some reason remember it and take it in better than
I read the
reading
same
it.
page 3 times.
And then you still go back and be like, what did I just read for the last 5 minutes?
I
don't know why. I'm terrible at it. I don't know.
My brain's got so many things going on in it that when I read it, I'm like multitasking. And then, I find out that I read the whole page, but I didn't like read the page.
I just listened to 2 chapters while I was replying to emails or doing something on my phone.
And I do that too.
It's the same
Trust
thing,
me.
yeah.
I'm not saying when I listen to an audiobook that it doesn't affect me.
I feel like if we asked your family, though, in the car, they'd rather listen to an audiobook instead of listen to you talk because it's probably less boring.
I don't talk while I drive
No?
at all.
Just crank up the tunes?
My kids, they have their own like playlists on Amazon. So I just put Amazon music on in our car and I'll ask the boys, all right, what song you want from your playlist? And I'll just listen to their stuff. Like I kind of just, that's how I am. And I truly enjoy it. I'm a fan of driving. Like I like driving. So obviously as a race car driver, it's just like, I love it. So yeah, I'm quiet while I drive and I enjoy it. So.
Hopefully they have a lot of Taylor Swift on their playlist.
They do not.
I do.
No, they do not.
We need to change them, boys.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They have a lot of hockey songs. A lot of them.
That's fair. Hopefully the Chicago Blackhawks goal song.
They do.
Do.
It's a it's a good goal song. As much as I'm not a Blackhawks fan, it's a great goal song.
Right, yeah.
All right, let's jump into this week's episode. Let's talk about, pricing variances, products, things like that. I think it's easy to get confused. That's for one thing I want to, touch on is that especially when, every sales rep that you talk to, every person and every product, anything that you buy, the company, the sales rep, whatever is trying to sell you, right?
And they're telling you they're the best for what you need.
And I think that's the thing is every best in market, best this,
that's their
best
job.
that.
I mean,
it is. It's their job and I expect it, right? But best value, same features, those statements, that's where I like to do my research is like, if you're going to say you're the best at this, I want to know why do you say that, right? I want not to not trust you on it, but I want to understand like what makes you better, right? What features exist? And the truth is not all products are made equal, right? Otherwise, why would there be multiple products?
right.
So everybody does something slightly different. And I think for CNC machines, the easiest way is like not all CNC machines are created equal, right? There's a billion places you can buy them from nowadays. And when you break it down, there's a lot that goes into a CNC machine. So like you think about other products out there, cars, whatever, there's a lot that goes into those products. And even, cabinetry, science, things like that, the material you use, how you're doing, the processes, the paint, the finish, everything you do has a positive, negative, right? Depending on how you're doing it.
Yep.
And so what are you actually paying for? Right? Why is that company charging you more or less? And what about their product allows them to charge more or less, right? And then that's where I try to always understand it is that as you dive into it, the first and foremost thing that I always look into is like build quality of anything I look at, right? What material specifically are they using? Because material ultimately is the foundation to what you're doing, right? Yep. I mean, in our case, structural steel versus, something that is, let's call it a welded steel frame versus a bolt together frame, right? Like there's a very different structural integrity there.
100%.
And so, rigidity always matters. It's something you have to think about as I kind of go through it. I start to ask myself, with us, like when you look at CNC machines, and there's a large range in price when it comes to CNC machines, the machine components, right? What components are on it? How are they, assembled? Is it welded, as we talked about? Is it bolted together? The components that they're using, the drive system, the gantry designs, right? I mean, aluminum versus steel there, the material they're made out of, the rigidity of that, the quality. I just think that it's a lot of times overlooked. And I think because the internet allows that to happen.
I think a lot of people just don't maybe necessarily ask enough questions to find out.
Yeah.
Like those things. You can have a company tell you, all the right things, all they want, right? But once you start asking the questions about the why, like you said,
Yep.
you can really tell by how their answer comes out or what they say, whether it's factual or if it's a little bit more along the lines of just saying what they think you want to hear to be convinced that they're the best.
Well, I think sometimes it's just about like how much knowledge do they really have, right? Are they reading from a sheet and they know what to tell you, what not to tell you, or do they truly understand their industry and their product and what they're trying to do? And, you know, for me, a lot of it's engineering and technology when you look at it, right? With ShopSabre, it's the advanced milling technologies that we use in the frames. You know, we have that aerospace mill, which is in some of our videos. The machines are designed from the ground up for a tighter tolerance. Well, if we're going to put the machine through that rigorous process, it doesn't make sense to use less advanced technology after the fact, right?
Yep.
Like, so if I'm not milling the frame, okay, I probably don't need to use the next level technology. And so I start to look at those things. And so when you look at machines, you know, apples for apples, are they really apples for apples? Likely no, right? And then you start to think about how were they designed? Was it by trial and error, you know, fitment? People build something, okay, it didn't work, we're going to try something else. I'm not saying that that process is wrong, or did they use a true like engineering software? Did they do an FEA design to it, you know, finite element analysis and, you know, stress testing stuff and checking it for weak points and, you know, vibration, you know, do they minimize it? Are they worried about vibration or do they just, well, let's try cutting and see what happens, right? And I don't know. I just think that it improves consistency by having some of that technology in there. You know, and our claim to fame, I mean, really what, you know, I think a lot of people will understand about ShopSabre is being American made, right? A product that we control in-house. We're not relying on somebody else to do the job for us. And I think that as you look at your product and your industries and things like, where are they made, right? Does that matter to you? And does that warrant a different price? I think it does.
For sure.
I think, go ahead.
I don't know. I think that point you just made as far as making everything from the ground up, you know that the pieces and parts that you're putting on your machines are up to your quality. You're not relying on somebody else.
Correct.
And, you know, hoping that they meet your standards to get those parts, right?
Well, I just look at it from a batch perspective, right? If I build 10 things here at ShopSabre as an example, and you can look at your cabinet shop or your sign shop or your fab shop, right? If you build something there and you build 10 of them in a row, you're going to inspect all 10 of them.
Yep.
Right? You're going to know the consistency, the expectation. And if one of those 10 does not come out to spec, you'll start over. Yep. You're not going to ship it. When you buy things that are imported many times, you might get one batch that's good and the next batch bad because there's a difference in the process, right?
There's consistency.
Yeah, there's less consistency, right? And so for us, that's a big part of why our products warrant the prices they do sometimes. And yeah, there are cheaper machines out there, without a doubt. You know, they're also more expensive machines, right? And you start looking at things like drive system technology, you know, rack and pinion versus ball screw, you know, linear guide rails versus roller bearings. Like there's some technologies there that while when you look at the outside of the machine, right? You look at a machine from the 100-foot mark, right? Yeah, it looks like a CNC machine. You get to the 10-foot mark and suddenly, okay, this makes that machine different, right? And then you get to the 1-foot mark and you start diving in and you start kind of like diving into the machine. You start to see that there's a difference in a machine as you get closer into certain things. Sure. And I think ultimately that all transfers into performance, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously the quality is there with all of your parts that are going to work together.
Right.
And it's going to, last a long time.
Right.
And give you the best quality that you're looking for. I mean, obviously.
Well, I think that comes back to, cutting accuracy, right? I mean, the part quality that the machine is built out of will transfer into your part quality, right? And cutting speeds versus cutting accuracy. Because I think that's something that people don't think about either, is that if you're going to cut something fast and it's cheap, you're probably not going to get the best finish, right?
There's going to be a downfall somewhere.
Right. Or if you are going to cut something very accurate, it might not be the fastest then because it requires, a slower speed. There's things there. But cheaper machines often sacrifice something, right? Yep. And I can't speak for what that is, right? Because it might be they sacrifice speed. You have some really accurate machines at a lower cost point, but you're just not going to accomplish as much in the same amount of time because they have to give up something somewhere.
Right. And they know those things when they're selling it, right? So they're going to focus on the things they know it can do properly for you.
Right.
And not touch on the things that are going to be lacking.
Right. And I think, again, rack and pinion is a good opportunity to talk here because we build machines with rack and pinion and ball screw. We're one of the few companies that can claim that, which I think is something that's often missed. It's easy to have a sales guy who's selling you only one type of technology and tells you that that's the best technology. Right. Well, of course it is. To them, it is the best technology because they don't have anything else to offer or compare it to. And if they were going to be like, it's not the best technology, but it's what we use,
Sure.
are you going to buy their product? Probably not. Maybe you will, but first you're going to want to go find something that has that other technology, which opens the door for them to lose the sale.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I hear when the sales guys are talking is they have the ability to explain the difference in the two,
Right.
and what you're going to get from one versus
Correct.
the other, or one the other is not going to do as good as the other,
Right.
and can explain the differences and why you can get away with one versus the other and
Right.
still get the job done that you're looking to get done.
And I think you have to think about it in your industry, cabinet makers as an example. If you start explaining materials, right? There's different materials that you use, and I'm sure that you have a process to what you do, which material you sell to which buyer, right? If I come to you right now and I'm going to build $1 million house versus I want you to build me a $250,000 house, I have to imagine
Yeah,
materials have to change, right?
for sure. Yeah.
The process changes a little bit. I'm not going to get the same thing because of the budget restriction.
Yep.
And I think that is really what people lose track of, is that you're restricted by the price. It's just not possible. I mean, I hear it. We build some really awesome machines, but I'll hear people that are like, I don't know why you don't do this. Well, then the price would change.
Yep.
And we are building for a niche market, right? We're trying to build machines for everyday users. Yeah, we do sell different levels of machine for that reason, right? We have machines that are for a high production environment, and they cost money to accommodate the speeds and the demands that those environments will.
But
then
you're also going to be putting out that much more product and making that much more money, right? So you're going to have to spend more money to do the volume you want.
Correct. And that's where I try to remind people that, it's easy. It's always easy to look, hindsight's 20/20, right? So people will go back and, they buy a starter machine, then they move to their next machine, and then they move to their next machine, and they forget about the starter machine that got them there.
Yep.
Right? And they forget about the middle step, right? It's easy to say, oh yeah, my $250,000 machine is the only way to go. Well, you didn't start there because a lot of people can't just go to that level right away. Practicality, it's just not there, right? You don't have enough throughput, the overhead to run that. You're not accomplishing enough with it. And frankly, a lot of companies just don't need to go to that level, right?
Yep.
So, I think you start looking at that, and again, it goes back to, even things like vacuum hold down, right? You got to hold your material down. You can't cut what you can't hold down. That's what I've always reminded customers. And not all vacuum systems are the same. I was talking to a customer yesterday, and we were talking about vacuum pumps. And he openly admitted he bought a cheaper machine, an import machine, and he hasn't been happy with the quality. And so we were talking, and he's seen our machine run, and he said, yeah, I just don't understand why my machine can't cut to that level. And then I started explaining the ball screws and the frame technology, and we started going, he's like, makes sense. He goes, but even from a hold down standpoint, he goes, I just don't understand why my parts move. And we started to talk about it, and I said, well, give me the model number on your vacuum pump. And he's like, well, it's a Becker, just like the one you guys sell. I said, okay, give me the model number.
The name is the same.
The name is the same, exactly. And
That's
but to the customer, they don't know better, right?
Right.
I mean, he was like, oh, this is the model number. So I looked up the specs, and I'm like, okay, well, here's the difference. Your vacuum pump produces 9.6 inches of vacuum pressure, or 10.1, something like that. I don't remember the exact number. And I'm like, the pump we're selling you is 24. Very different, right?
Yes.
Performance, you're going to see a difference there. Though they are built by the same company, the pump you're using isn't designed for the application you're using it for.
Yep.
And so that's where, again, sometimes companies, for cost, can't use the same level of technology, right?
Yep.
And so therefore it affects your performance long term. And so the same can be said for bearings and, controllers and motors and everything else. And so even your business, the paint quality you're using, or the material quality, or, whatever you're doing, the processes, the amount of labor you're putting into something is relative to the price you're trying to sell it for.
For sure. It kind of brought me back to a couple weeks ago when we were talking about buying cars. You buy a car with a base package, or leather interior with heated seats, or then you can go to the very top model that has everything. Right. It's got the same kind of thing, right?
It is, and to some regards, it is luxury, right? Some options are just luxurious, right?
Yep.
But some of them are practical, and that's what you have to understand. And for me, it's something like software. I think that's one area that often gets overlooked. People will try to cut corners in the software side and then wonder why they're not being successful in what they're doing, right? And it's like the quality CNC is the first step, right? But you still have to have powerful, user-friendly software to be successful.
Sure.
Because software does drive it.
That's one of those things that if you don't know any better, it seems like, any software will do the same thing. You're just drawing lines and making shapes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that if I had not worked here for as long as I have, I would think the same thing.
Right.
Like, oh, great, there's 10 different drawing softwares. You're drawing squares
the
and
cheapest?
circles. It's all going to work the same.
Right. And people just race to the bottom. What's the cheapest one? I'll buy that one. You know, well, yeah, that might get you started, but eventually you might outgrow it. You might hit its limitations. And so, you know, I think the thing about hidden costs with cheap machines, you know, as we kind of look forward to it, or, you know, in our case, when you look at cheap machines and you compare them to, hey, you and this so-and-so brand, the ShopSabre is $10,000 more for the same machine. You know, if I could talk about how many times I hear that, I respect it. They look like the same machine for the 100-foot mark, right? But as you start diving in, it's well, what do you get after buying the machine? For one, right? What's the support look like? Because I think that's often an area that is undervalued. Is that worth $10,000 to you? A lot of people can't put a value on support. To them, it's just that should be free.
But to have that security and safety net, to know that you're always going to have somebody there to help with any, you know, issues, whether it be something small or something major. And knowing you're just a call away from getting help and hopefully back up running is a huge thing.
But that's where I think it comes back to we offer you lifetime support. We do it too. We're just like them, right? How many companies will say that? They're just like them.
Right.
But just because they say the words that we give you lifetime support, it's free, you know, blah, blah, blah. How good is that support?
What does it really mean?
Yeah. Like how much money have they invested into the support system? And that's where I start to look at it. Like you might save some upfront cost on the piece of equipment, right? The equipment itself, you know, is a fixed price, right? You pay that one time and it's done. That's a cheaper price. But now what's happening in a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road? How much support are you going to receive?
Right. And then I guess not to jump ahead, but how many thousands of dollars are you going to put into replacing things that go wrong? Right.
Well, and that goes back into like inconsistent accuracy, right? Like poor build quality, which you might not see right away, right? Behind the scenes, it's behind that fancy cover. There's things going on that maybe you don't see inside the control box. You know, part vibration. You know, the machine structurally doesn't have the same integrity. They didn't spend as much time in an aerospace milling, you know, environment, and they haven't put as much in material cost. And so when you look pound for pound, the machines aren't truly equal. And so, you know, look at how the machine is laid out, the leg design, some of the, you know, engineering specs of it. Does it cause you to have to cut things slower? Does it cause you to have to take more passes? Does it cause you something that translates into more time? And time is money. So eventually that adds up, right? Or maybe you're having to sand parts. You know, it kind of goes back to that laser versus plasma, right?
Correct, yep.
Like they're both going to do great part, but if you don't have to do cleanup on one part versus the other one, you might have to, or you have to, because the hole is so small, a 16th inch hole, an 1/8 inch hole, you have to go drill it. Well, it's labor, it's time.
And it doesn't take long for all those labor hours to add up to $10,000.
Right. And that's exactly it. So sometimes you start to look at like cost differences, and then you think about, as you said, the downtime, the repairs. What is your time worth? Biggest job that, you know, I remind people, things don't break down when it's convenient.
No, never.
I've learned that in my life. Like everything that has ever gone wrong for me on equipment, my race car, anything, happens at the most inconvenient time.
For sure.
Right?
Yep.
It's kind of like the old, like, have you ever, I'm sure everybody, you run out of paper in your printer? It's never runs out of paper when you have a ton of time. It seems like when you're behind schedule and you're, okay, if I get this printer real quick, I'll go do this. Out of paper. And then you got to run and grab paper, right? It's just that, like, that's that inconvenience.
Or you don't, like, hear the thing beeping telling you it's out of paper, and then you go back there a half hour later to get the stuff you printed off for your meeting that's happening in 2 minutes, and it's halfway printed and you don't have any paper.
Yeah, and that's where it's like cheap components wear out faster. So yeah, while they both might use a ball screw on the Z-axis, the quality of that ball screw can make a world of difference, right?
Yep.
Does it last as long? You know, it can lead to production delays, right? Something so simple, you know, a limit switch, a micro switch, whatever. And a well-built machine, and that doesn't mean top of the line machine, just well-built, right? It's going to minimize your maintenance. It's going to keep you up running longer. And yeah, it might cost you a little bit more money up front, but in the end, you're going to get more out of the machine, right? You're going to get things that ultimately will drive you towards success.
Well, and I think too, another thing is the availability and timeliness of getting those replacement parts, right?
Yeah.
Like and if you have something that you can't get parts for weeks or months or whatever, like what are you going to do?
And I think that's where you got to talk about, like, what's the sales pitch you're hearing versus what's the reality, right? Because again, every sales guy's going to tell you that we're the same, we got it, we're going to take care of you, blah, blah, blah. But it's the same machine is my favorite sales phrase. You hear people say that all the time. Oh, it's the same machine. It's probably not.
Right.
Like, them saying that statement usually is a statement of trying to mask something, right? Trying to be like somebody else. Like, it's rare for ShopSabre to ever, I can't ever imagine where we're saying it's the same machine. We would never say that. Like, for us, we aren't the same as anybody else. We are a different machine.
Right.
We are okay with being different. We want to explain to you why we're different. That guy just fell off the wall.
That
picture just fell off the wall. I don't know what's happening. But lost my train of thought there. But basically, telling you it's the same. Yeah, it might be similar on paper, right? They have tool changers, they have vacuum, they have this.
It sounds like just taking the easy way out. Instead of actually like taking the time to explain what it is or like compare, you're not going to compare how it's the same if you know it's not.
I don't know that it's the easy way out as much as it's an attempt to comfort you, right?
Sure.
It's an attempt to comfort you that it's the same. They're both equipped the same. When in reality, they might be right? They both are 4x8 machines with a tool changer, vacuum, whatever, right?
But shouldn't that be a red flag to ask more questions?
It should be. I mean, let's just dive into it and understand it, right? And sometimes, yeah, less expensive machines do have the same capabilities. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but same with cabinetry. Your cabinet job might cost more or less, but why? Right. Let's understand the why, right? And understanding the manufacturing processes and what do you do? Understanding the materials you're using, what paint are you using, what grade of components are you using? What are you doing to test my product? What's the testing method? Is it just hope that it works, or is there a testing process, right? The similar specs don't always transfer into similar results, right?
For sure.
And so what's truly different, because there's got to be a difference, right? And when everybody says we have great support, because again, I don't think I've ever met a sales guy in my entire life when I'm like, how is the support? And they're like, we're shit.
Right, yeah.
Right? Like, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
We're great. We're going to take care of you. We'll be behind this, Prove it. That's what I always ask.
To what level?
Yeah, I always ask, like, how accessible is it, for one, right?
Oh, we'll get back to you within 3 days.
Well, yeah, what's the response time? What's the hold times? I want to know some of that stuff up front. My thing is what's the support staffing levels, right? Who am I calling for support? Is it you? Do you have a team? What do I do if something doesn't go the way I want it to, right? What if it's a simple question? How do I get easy answers? Like some of that stuff, let the proof be in the pudding, if you will, right?
For sure.
Like the reviews, are you knowledgeable about your product? Can you explain to me the technology? Tell me what makes your machine better, or are you just saying it is, right? And I often can tell when a sales guy is kind of reading from a script or a memorized script. Yep. It just feels rehearsed. So, how quickly has the sales rep gotten back to you? That's another thing I always look at. Like, I'm big on communication. I hate when I have to pry information out of people. Mm-hmm. And, most companies, I start there with them, I try to figure out, did the sales guy, I put a request in, were they responsive to me? Is the sales guy willing to talk me out of spending money sometimes? That's important to me. Do you need this or do you not need it? And often times there's cases where you need something and somebody tries to talk you into it. But there's times when I come to you and I tell you this is what I'm looking at, and I've appreciated when a sales guy is willing to educate me.
Absolutely. You need to go into it, and a sales guy should go into it thinking that you don't know anything about what you're trying to buy, right?
Right.
Or maybe not know nothing, but know less than maybe you should. And don't know everything.
Yeah, that comes back to understanding why a feature may or may not be important to me. Me, not everybody. Why in my business, what we're talking about, is this scalable? Is this something I need? Is this something that, it's not about my need today, it's my need in the future.
Right.
Why is that important to me? When you tell me I should have that, why?
The thing that I always go back to is somebody that calls in and will say that they need a drill block because they're doing closets twice a year.
Very much so.
You know what I mean? That's one of those things where would somebody just be like, yeah, sure, we can get that for you. It's an extra $10,000 in my pocket, right? Or whatever the price is.
Yep.
Or whatever it turns out to be. Or will somebody actually be honest with you and be like, no, you don't need to spend that money on this. You can spend that on something else that'll actually benefit what you're trying to do.
Right. How to make the right investment, in other words. Sure. What are your specific needs? And I often start there, understanding and assessing my personal needs. Am I after more precision in my business or my product? Or, again, when I'm building a house, why do I want that level of cabinetry? You tell me. Understand that so I can understand my needs. Is that important to me, right? The precision, the speed, the material type, all of those things are related to what's most important to me, right? Or future growth. What am I doing in the future that maybe I'm building a house that I'm going to keep for 2 years. Yeah, I understand that cabinet might last 20. I'm not going to build something for something down the road if it's just, a short-term thing, right? And again, that's maybe a bad example because I don't know of many people that buy a house for 2 years. Sure. I think we all build or buy houses for the purpose of living there for a long period of time. Yep. Things come up circumstantial that change that. But tools are not that way. For me, a lot of times I buy tools for a future need, right? I'm not going to buy a temporary need.
It's not something you're just using to fix something one time.
Yeah. What I'm choosing could affect my future. And what's my 1 year, my 5 year, my 10-year goals, right? Do those align with the cost of the equipment? What I'm trying to do this for? Evaluating cost to me is more than just the price I pay today.
Sure.
To me, a lot of my costs I evaluate is about what do I pay tomorrow, right? What's that? Okay, yeah, you gave me lifetime support. What's lifetime support really mean? Mm-hmm. Is there a limitation on how many calls I get, how many minutes I get to use? Like, is there a time limitation on the equipment? So I often look at the upfront cost versus the long-term efficiencies and the cost associated with maintaining the machine. One technology versus the other. Is that going to wear out faster? Naturally a gear and a teeth. Like I started thinking about that. Like there's some level of wear there versus a ball bearing, right? So you have to start to think about that stuff. And then, you factor in the support. Do I have an ongoing subscription I have to pay? Does the software, is it proprietary? Because that's a concern for me. If it's something proprietary, does that mean I'm limited on my growth because nobody else can support it if you discontinue it, right? Yeah. So, the maintenance, the downtime, there's just a lot of stuff that I think about when it comes to that. I'm big on myself. I'm big on trusting proven brands. I'd rather recognize the product for a reputation.
For sure.
Apple being one, right? When I buy products, obviously I have my Apple Watch that I wear, but I'm an Apple guy. Like I use Apple earbuds. Like I literally have them here in my pocket all of the time. And yeah, there's cheaper earbuds and things like that. It's the compatibility of those products, right? I just know they work really well.
Ease of use.
But I know also that Apple has a good reputation.
Right.
And to me, like premium brands, often I understand why there's a cost associated with it because I'm going for that stableness, right? And that stableness was built on a foundation of success. So of course I'm going to pay a little bit more for success, right? Yeah. And I'm big on researching the reviews, looking at what people are saying about it, and case studies, watching videos. Are people talking about it? Real customer feedback? What are they saying about these products? Can I see the machine in videos? Can I come tour your plant? I bought a trailer several years ago, many, many years ago. Same trailer I've owned now for many years of racing. But I went and visited the plant. And I was like, I want to see how you build these things, right? I'm just coming from a manufacturing background. Sure. I wanted to see how they do it. And I a lot of times, even something simple like a steering wheel. I bought a steering wheel for my race car 2 years ago. And I went to PRI. Before I bought the steering wheel, I held it in my hand. And I wanted to see it. And I wanted to feel it. And I know it's something silly, but it's like if I'm going to spend a few $100s on a steering wheel.
Yeah, if you hold onto it and it doesn't feel,
right.
You're not going to be comfortable racing with it. Why would you want it?
Can I see it in action? Can I come to your facility? If I can't come to your facility, is there a trade show? Is there somewhere I can see this thing, right? That's important to me. I look at those things like trusting a proven brand. I want to know, are you a fly-by-night company, right?
Yep.
I've bought some stuff in my life where I regrettably bought it, right? And I've learned that it sounded great up front, but the product failed to meet my needs. And it's because I just didn't do enough research.
Makes sense. Yeah. Had you looked at it a little bit deeper, you would have known that maybe there was some people that are in the same boat as you ended up in, right?
Right.
That weren't satisfied with what they thought was going to be good.
But I think we're all in business for a reason, right? As business owners, you're sitting here listening to this, and I'm sure employees, as you're sitting there like, why do you work for the company you work for? Why do you do what you do? Like, why should somebody, ask yourself this question. If somebody came up to you in the grocery store, asked you what you do, are you proud to talk about who you work for? Most people, yes, right? They're proud of what they do. You have a sense of pride in your work. And so are you going to try to convince somebody to buy what you sell?
Yeah.
And if so, what's your reason for them to buy from you? What is your why? And that's what you have to think about is what is your why to buy? Now, you should expect that same passion from whoever's selling you what they're doing, right?
For sure, yeah. And if they don't have it, why,
right.
You're not going to want to go down that path with them, are you?
I think for me, it's a lot bigger than that. I think, I'm big into CNC. Obviously, I mean, this whole episode's kind of, I've used CNC as the example, but this is really about why is there a product variance between products? Well, I think it's because of all of the things behind the scene. It's not just the product itself, right? We look at this thing on the table here, this podcast.
Buttony controller.
Yeah, what do you want to call it? Controller thingy.
Bright lights.
Yeah, but it's built by Rode, right? And Rode is a name that's well known in the industry. Yeah, there's cheaper ones out there.
Yeah.
I bought one before this. I bought a cheap one. It didn't work great. It failed really quickly. The support wasn't very good. Rode, I've had one issue with it. I call them, they take care of me.
Yep.
Right? It's been dependable. It's something that we can use. And I start to look at that, like, why do different levels of product exist? It's for different user needs. Everybody's needs are different.
Yep.
And maybe you are a weekend warrior and you don't need the machine to be, or the product or whatever it is to last as long. But if you depend on it, for me, this is a tool we use at work day in, and I can't spend time fixing it every time I do it. I don't have free time. Mm-hmm. So it's important to me. So I think about that in your business, and when you're buying, things for your home. Why are you buying it? Is it a luxury? Is it to fit a need? How much maintenance comes along with it? What's the burden in life going to be because of this investment? Right? Nobody likes to buy something and then have buyer's remorse.
For sure. Yeah. Right.
So
buy it, use it, and don't have to worry about it later.
Right. Exactly. And that's for me. Like, not all CNC machines are created equal. Right? We know that. Not all products are going to be exactly the same, and the price generally represents that.
For sure.
Generally, no company out there is going to sit there and just simply exist by being higher priced for no reason. They exist and they're higher priced because they're doing something that others maybe are not doing.
And it gives people a reason to spend that extra money with them as opposed to somebody else.
Consider the information is what you have to do. Just consider what they're telling you. Are you being sold a bill of goods or are you being sold value, right? And sometimes that means there's a commission check involved, right? Sometimes it means how it's being sold to you. Is there a distributor in between it? I've been big on trying to go to the factory on everything I buy. Again, my trailer is a perfect example. I bought it from the factory. Didn't buy it from a trailer dealership, right? I know there's a middleman involved there, and that middleman's going to have some margin. So by going to the factory directly, I eliminated the middleman.
And I think, too, going back a second, I think using the word value,
right,
I think can get misconstrued sometimes.
Yep.
Like, there's value in paying more money for something, right? Like
100%. Said. 100%.
Like, just because something is value doesn't mean it's cheap, not
value
reliable.
And cheap are different, right?
Right, for sure.
And sometimes cheap is good value, right?
Sure.
I mean, that definitely exists, but cheaper machines in our industry, right, often run into long-term
roadblocks.
Limitations.
Yeah,
I would say limitations. Whether it's lost time down the road, right? Maybe it's just poor quality. I mean, I've had people that call me up like, yeah, I bought this machine, man, it's never really run right. Like, they buy things with the intention and they realize that they shouldn't have bought it, right? Yep. So now they call us trying to look for their next machine. And
even further down the line, like, your customers aren't satisfied then when you're giving them a crummy product.
Right.
So then it reflects badly on you because you bought a poor machine or a lesser value machine.
Right. No, I agree with that. And, for us, when you invest in a ShopSabre, you're investing in the people, you're investing in the quality, you're investing in the performance. There's a whole lot of things behind the scene that you're investing in more than just the machine itself, right? There's so many things we do that you're investing in for that name.
Peace of mind.
Right. And so to me, it's just, that's really where you got to go. Like, as you start thinking about it and you break down products, why does a price vary so large across the market? Why does some products cost $2,000 and some cost $100,000? You're just not going to get the same parts in a $2,000 product as you are a $100,000 product. It's the same when you look at cars. You can buy a car for $30,000 or you can buy a car for $100,000. There is a level of quality when it comes to the interior that you're used. The electronics used. There is a level of quality. And then the service. What you can expect. I mean, some cars, when you buy them at a higher price point, they come with maintenance plans. Versus the lower cost cars, you generally have to pay for the maintenance. Sure. So there's a cost of ownership that goes along with it. And you just have to determine what's important to your business, what's important to your life. As I buy things, I always try to look at the long-term success I can have with something. So
I need to get better at that.
Yeah. I got a motivational quote for you this week, though.
Awesome.
Every day is a chance to be better. We all make mistakes. The only real mistake is not learning from them. And I want people to think about that because I've done it. I admittedly have made mistakes, right? In business and life, in everything I do. But I always try to learn from it and realize that, like, okay, I made that mistake once. I'm not going to compound that mistake. Yep. I'm going to own it. I generally will not afraid if through professional conduct and conversation, I'm willing to always go the extra yard for people.
For sure.
And, again, I think, anybody can learn from that. So it's just don't hang your head on mistakes. I teach my son this, who's a goalie, that, every day is a chance to be better. Like, don't worry about the last game. Don't worry about the last shot. We all make mistakes, right?
For sure.
My son has done it. And, yesterday night, he gave up a wraparound goal. He was so mad at himself. And he's like, Dad, I think I got stuck. I'm like, let's go back and watch the video. He watched the video. I'm like, doesn't look like he got stuck. He's like, yeah, I was slow. Like, he openly said it. He's like, I was slow. Like, he realized he just didn't react.
But he owned it.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's the real, the real mistake would have been him saying, like, nope, see, nothing happened. Like, no, he understood what he did wrong. And he said, like, okay, I got to get there. Like, I got to just make the decision to get to that post. I'm like, exactly. Just get there. And so, like, move on. Next shot, and like, it's just that same mentality in life. You just got to have that, like, quick reaction to, okay, I made a mistake, move on.
Yep. We're all gonna do it. Nobody's perfect.
We're human.
Nobody's gonna make mistakes. It happens.
Steaks.
Did I say steak?
You said steaks. I like steak.
I don't. We don't have to talk about that though. You grind it up into hamburger though. Delicious.
Unreal. Well, anyways, I think for people out there listening, the big thing is, if you're ready to learn about ShopSabre, of course, visit our website. Obviously, there's a lot of information out there. You can see what real customers say. We have a testimonial section where customers actually post their own testimonials. If you have questions about CNC pricing, specifically machine quality, reach out. We're here to help. Our sales team is excellent at that. Obviously, for your customers, be there for them. Help your customers understand why they should buy from Lloyd's Cabinet Shop, right? Or whoever. Like, why should they buy from you? What are you giving them that maybe somebody else isn't?
Don't be afraid to tell them you're great.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to tell them things.
Be proud of yourself.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Right. Don't forget, obviously, subscribe our show. We're great. Right. We're proud of what we do here. So make sure you follow us. We'll bring lots of engaging content over the year. Share us with your friends. Talk to other business owners. When people are arguing the price with you, right? When your customers are talking about price, don't be afraid to share this episode with them.
Right.
Don't be afraid to show them that, hey, there's a whole lot more going on behind the scenes. We'd love to hopefully help you open up your customers' eyes too, because I think a lot of times we get blinded by a price.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sticker shock.
Sticker shock sometimes gets people, but they don't look at why is it cost what it is, and is it worth my investment? I just think you gotta be willing to explain it. You gotta spend time earning their business.
Yep.
And so
it's not just gonna fall into your lap and happen without a little bit of work.
Right.
Time and effort.
Yeah. You got anything else for people today?
I don't.
Well then,
on empty. My metabolism is
dude.
kinda low.
I'm just like, I could go chase a cheetah and catch it with my bare hands right now.
I'll take that bet.
Got tons of energy right now. Let's go. Yeah. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in to Talking Shop. As always, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
Until next time, keep talking shop.